Hi everyone, we welcome you all to this week Tech Tuesday webinar on IICS Cicd, Pipelines with GitHub and Jenkins. Today's speaker is Prabir Kumar, who is a Principal Consultant from Informatica Professional Services. Before we start the session, let's go through some of the housekeeping tips. The webinar is for 1 hour that includes 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in Q&A box which will be answered at the end of the presentation. All participants will be muted during the presentation. The session will be recorded and it will be available on our InfoSupport YouTube channel and Success Portal where you'll be able to download the slide deck. Please feel free to submit your suggestion or feedback for the session in the post-webinar survey. The Success Portal is a microlearning platform that offers free, unlimited learning to all registered users. This feature-rich platform helps you learn and adapt to Informatica products better. The following are a few important links that you can go over later. This will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Prabir. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. Hi everyone, I'm Prabir Kumar Dhar from Informatica Professional Service, working as a principal consultant with data integration and data governance practice here in IPS. In today's session, we will be going through an overview of IICS CI/CD process with GitHub and Jenkins as a tool for the CI/CD process. Let's go through the agenda of the today's session. In today's session, we will be going through IICS CI/CD overview, IICS integration with source control management, REST API endpoints provided to support CI/CD process, along with a quick demo. CI/CD process refers to the automation that enable incremental code changes deployment in a automated and faster way. Out of many, the two most important advantages of CI/CD are deliver the code in deployment in a faster speed. Automation reduces the cost of deployment. Okay, in this this is the list of supported versions, supported version control management solution with IICS platform. In this list, some of the solutions are SaaS based and some of are self-hosted in customer environment. For this use case, for today's demo, we will be using a cloud-based GitHub repository. The cloud-based Git repositories like Azure, DevOps, and GitHub will be connected through IICS design environment, as shown in the diagram. User must have source control license to use these features. For more detail about IICS Git integration, there is a good knowledge base article in the Informatica knowledge base site with the title FAQ all about source control, version control in IICS. Similarly, if the repository is on-prem based on-prem based, then the cloud agent will be used to communicate with the Git repository. Here, one thing to note is that there is a additional license needed, like Git Repo Connect app _ R1 license on the IICS org, and we need to enable a self-hosted Git Repo service on the agent's server. So this diagram shows how the IICS is connected to the Git repository. Here, IICS integration for this integration to happen, we need to first go to the GitHub and create a repository in GitHub. What we are seeing here is that even though we have multiple orgs, each org is pointed to one particular branch of the repository. We need to be having everything in under one repository, but each org, maybe this is at your dev org, this is your UAT org, or this is your production org. Each org should be pointing to a particular branch where the code can be migrated through the CI/CD process. Let's see some of the recent REST API enhancements provided by IICS platform for the CI/CD process. So there is a link provided in the docs.informatica.com where you can see the details of these REST APIs. These are available in using these APIs. We can use it in the CI/CD process. Some of these, like pull by commit hash, commit, or source control action, are really very helpful in the IICS CI/CD process. I'll suggest, if you are trying out these REST API, first go through the docs.informatica regarding the format, what type of JSON payload and authentication it is expecting, and then it will give you a fair idea about what all these APIs are. We will be using in our demo some of these APIs only to, for our CI/CD process. Um, okay, let's move to the next section. Okay, this is our normal IICS CI/CD pipeline should look like. So as we discussed before, the all the you know all the orgs, whether it's a dev org, whether it's a UAT, a test org, whether it's a prod org, they all will be connected to different branches of Git. So there is a dev branch, there is a test branch, there is a prod branch under one repository, and they are linked to this IICS org, like one to one. Okay. Um, it, this is all about connectors, but basically, for CI/CD process to work, the code will go from dev branch to test branch to production branch, and we will go through the one example. Okay, we will be using Jenkins for our CI process. So let's see let's go through the steps, high level overview of the CI/CD process. Okay, so this process starts like in this way. Suppose I'm a developer, like I'm playing a role of a developer in a project, whether it's a new code or whether it's a change of code. I got a task from my lead, or I have to perform a task, which includes like creating a new mapping task, or maybe a task flow, or maybe modifying a particular mapping task or a task flow, uh, which is in the dev environment, because that we want to perform some activity required by business. So the developer, he will complete his development in the dev environment. He will check in the code in the dev environment. Okay, this is the step one. Developer check-ins the revision to the dev environment. When we can say it's a revision, or we can say it's a new code also. The bottom line is that, okay, the moment the developer is ready with the code, he will be doing a check-in of the code, and that check-in will be going into the Git. So the moment he did, he did a check-in. This code will be going into the Git repository in the dev branch. Now, when the developer changes the code, there will be a Git commit hash ID got generated. This commit hash is basically a they say that, okay, it's a MD5 function for that particular change. So it's a unique for each change. So the moment this particular developer committed the code is going into the Git branch, and this process, the intermediate process, is very internal to IICS. I mean, at the moment a developer do a check-in, IICS will be taking care of the code check-in into the Git repository. So in this process, what we are going to do here is, if we are looking for a automated migration, I mean CI/CD process. So Git will be configured with some kind of triggers or webhooks. Those triggers will be set up in such a way that the moment there is a check-in happen on a particular branch, for example, dev or test or prod, if maybe not in broad, but the dev and test, the moment there is a check-in happen, it will let Jenkins know, hey, we got a check-in at this point of time. So it will send a message to Jenkins server saying that, okay, there is a check-in happen. Jenkins process will get triggered due to because of this message. So in the previous screen, I mean the step 1B, when the message will go to the CI process and for the Jenkins server, Jenkins will trigger a build process. This build process, what it will do here is it will go back to the dev org. Remember, we do have APIs. These APIs are for IICS. These are not for Git repository. So every time we have to get any information or do any operation, we have to go to the IICS org to get the information. So here we will be using a commit API to go to the dev org and find it out in this particular commit what all information, what all objects are checked in. So CI process Jenkins will get this information from the dev org. Once it hit it in the IICS dev org, the dev org will be returning the values, returning the asset along with a type. We will be able to see a sample payload of how a return type will look like, but what generally happen is it will be a basically a JSON file which will be having the list of all the objects, whether it's a mapping. Suppose the developer choose to commit a, and we suggest to, if you are looking for a particular commit, then bundle all the code in one commit itself. Now if the developer is looking for to commit a mapping task, a task flow, along with suppose two mapping tests and task flow, suppose, right? All these objects will be returning back the list of objects, including the IDs, app context IDs, and details about, like the which project, object type, everything will be returned back to the CI process. In the next step, we will see that, okay, the CI process will figure it out that, okay, which job need to be executed and tested. Now, in the CI/CD job, generally what we do here is we validate the code which is going to be migrated as a part of CI/CD flow. Because if there is something wrong with the code, if the code is not tested, just the developer checked in and he didn't tested the code, then we have to the CI/CD process will test it and figure it out that, okay, is it in the state that it can be taken to UAT or not. Generally, if the code is not tested and not in a executable state, then we should not be moving it to the higher environment. So in this process of job execution, the CI process, it will be able to identify that, okay, which jobs are going to be executed uh, based on the type. For example, suppose there is just a mapping. It may not be able to execute by itself. It requires a mapping task or maybe a task flow. So we have to figure it out that, okay, if the job type can be tested independently or not. Generally, we test for a mapping task or a task flow. So moving along, once the CI process tested all the code, it will figure it out that, okay, what is the next step. So it will Okay, so it will figure it out that, okay, hey, in the overall process, is there a success or a failure? I mean, if there is one failure, it's a failure. If there is all success, then it's a success. So it will be able to figure it out that, okay, all the jobs are tested properly, whatever we have received in that particular check-in process. Now, once we get the final value, it's a success or failure, we will be able to so for example, there is a failure happened in this job, then we can go back to developer and let him know that, okay, hey, the build failed and someone need to take a look what happened and through the build logs and retest the code and resubmit it again for CI/CD process. Um, if and it is going to be going only to the developer just to make sure that he understand and he do his part of the debugging. Now, if the build succeeded, okay, then the developer or the automated process can put a request for approval that, hey, this process can be submitted for UAT migration. Here, we will prefer generally to have a manual step or manual approach. Someone need to validate to see that, okay, whatever the automated process did is correct or not, and after that only we will migrate the code from dev to test. Or we will be seeing that in the demo. So in this manual process, if the person satisfied that okay, we can go ahead with the migration. uh, so what we will do here is that okay, the code, the CD pipeline, CD pipeline will take care of, take this whole H1. If you remember in the beginning, when the step one we discussed, the H1 is the git commit hash. This git commit hash is generated by the by Git when the first check-in happen. So using this H1, we will be using a git cherry pick command. Git cherry pick command is coming from the git merge family, which is again like it's not exactly git merge, but it is more like only migrating a particular commit from one branch to another branch. So git cherry pick is we are taking this particular H1 commit and moving it to the test org. Again, as I said, git cherry pick is from the git merge family. So the moment we did the git cherry pick in the test org, there will be again a push going to happen into the test org, because this push is going to when we do that, this code, this particular commit, whatever is there in dev, it will get pushed to the test branch. Because of this push, git push, again there is a CI pipeline get triggered for the test org. Okay, again it get triggered. Now here one thing, just to make sure we understand, when we say H1 and H2, what will happen is, see, in dev branch the commit might be H1. In the test branch, when we will commit it, it will be a H2. It will be a totally different commit. But when we start doing the operation in the test branch, uh, in the test branch side, we will be only dealing with H2. So we have to make sure that okay, we get the H2, and based on that only, we all the operations will rest of the operation of pull by commit hash will be taken care. But in our script or in our CI and CD process, we have to do a proper handholding between H1 and H2. Now this H2 is the new git commit hash for the test environment. Once we get the H2, it means the push happened, and push will again trigger the CI pipeline. Now this CI pipeline will be done in the test org. Here, we are not immediately, the first thing first is we are not testing the code. Rather, we will do the pull by commit or pull by commit hash to bring the code into the IICS org. So the step 2D will be to, based on the H2, we have to do a pull by commit hash. What it will do here is, when we do a pull by commit hash, it will bring the code from the Git repository, the test branch of the IICS org, from there to the IICS side. It will pull that particular code. This API will help us to get the code imported into the IICS org, because we have completed the repository side migration. I mean the Git repository side migration first. Once this Git pull by commit hash is completed, we will be able to see that the code is showing up in the test org. In the next step, we will see that okay, once this once this pull by commit hash is completed, and we see that okay, everything is completed, we will be able to send a communication message that okay, the CI test passed, we are able to import the code into the test org. So the user can submit a request for the CD pipeline after the CI process got completed in the test org. In the CD pipeline, you will be able to see that it will be a request for migrating the code to the prod environment. Okay, so Now they are requesting for migrating the code to the prod environment. Okay. Again, once the CD process started, there will be three different steps. One will be moving the code from H2 to H3, which means the test branch to the prod branch. And you will be able to see that a CI pipeline will be triggered, and then pull by commit hash will be uh, happening again in the prod. This step is again the repetition of the same what we did in the test org. Okay, in this case, basically this is the prod migration of the code through the CI/CD process. And then once this get completed, then in the next step we will send a final confirmation to the user that your prod deployment get successful. Okay, this is the high level of IICS CI/CD process. Whatever in theory, we will be going into a small demo after this, and along with whatever the REST APIs and the Jenkins setup and all those things into the demo after this process. Okay, let's get into the demo. Okay. Um, I think I got logged off from my other environment. Let me log in. Okay, as the name says, this is my dev org. You'll be able to see that this is my dev environment where I will be having some code which need to be either first time or incrementally migrated to the higher environment. Before we go to the migration side, we will be going to look into the Git settings a little bit. Let's go to the Git settings. So if you can see here, we have enabled the enable source control over here. One of the best practice of configuring the Git repositories with IICS is that you allow the Git push from IICS in the dev org, because this is where the developers will be doing the code check-in checkouts, but you should not be allowing any check-in checkout from the UAT and production environment. So in that way you can maintain the integrity that whatever code is coming to the higher environment is only coming from the Git repository, and the higher environment will not be able to change the Git code by itself. Okay, so in the dev environment, you will be seeing that okay, this push is checked in, but in the UAT or test environment, and prod environment, it is not checked in. Okay, if you see here, there is a this is like the option called platform. So if it is a cloud based, you will be able to see a cloud, but if it is a on-prem based, then you will be having a drop down if you do have the license, and then you will be able to select the on-premises. You have to provide the repository URL. I think every Git repository can provide a HTTPS URL and a particular branch name where exactly your branch is. Let's see the IICS branch, how our branches are configured. So if you see here, this is one repository, IICS CI/CD demo, and we will be having three branches, dev, QA, prod. So all these three branches are there in one repository only. So in this way, where suppose a developer will be checking out or checking in the code in the dev, the CI/CD process will be migrating the code from branch to a different branch through git cherry pick, and then importing the code in the next environment. This is the GitHub setup. Now we will be having some webhook setups also. So basically at a repository level, you can do some webhook setups. You can see here webhooks. So in webhook, you can you can configure where your Jenkins is. So this particular process is, if you remember, the Git is sending a message to Jenkins. Hey, we got a new check-in happen in the in our branch, and then Jenkins will start a particular CI process or CD process. We will be going through one example after this. Okay, let's go back to our dev environment. We need to see one more thing. Okay, so if you see this is our dev environment. We have we have many folder here. We have some code in our DI project 3. Again, there is a project, there are code, there are connections, and there are you know agents. So all these things are little bit tied up in IICS. So basically we have to take care of these things when we are preparing the CI/CD pipelines. We have to make sure that okay, how to orchestrate between all these things like project, code, connections, and agent. So we have to provide, because chances are there that okay, your connection names are not same between the dev and UAT, or your agent names are not the same. So you have to do provide some kind of mapping. Those are available in the REST API guide, how to provide the mapping between source and target. So we can look into it when we will go into the REST APIs. Okay, let's quickly go to the REST API documentation, and if we look into this, this is the docs.informatica site. All these, REST API details are available in the REST API references. If we look into the REST platform REST API version 3 resources, we will be able to see the section source control. This is the same source control section where we have seen the screenshot where what are these APIs are useful for IICS CI/CD process. So if suppose we are taking care of like pull by commit hash, I'm just giving an example. We will be having I think it is a little slow. Okay, so we have to provide this object specification so that the process will understand that okay, if there is a difference in configuration between the one environment to another environment, what all what are the mapping need to be done between the, suppose the dev connection is different from UAT connection, or dev agent is different from UAT agent. We have to pass the custom configuration using the object specification. Okay, so let's quickly go to the demo. Okay, we have a dev environment, and before we start on this one, let's quickly go through the our UAT environment also. So this is our UAT environment. In our UAT environment, again, we do have connections, we do have agent, everything else is set up, but we don't have the code in place at this point of time. So when we are going into the DI project 3, we don't have any code here. Okay, now we are going to dev environment. We do have two mapping tasks. How I differentiate between the two releases is like, okay, hey, this is my V0 release where I'm doing the first time check-in. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check in all the code. Okay, the moment I check in these code into in IICS, these code will be going into the Git repository. So if we go to the Git repository, currently my Git repository do not have any code. So if I go to the branch, you will be saying that, okay, there is nothing here. Okay, and before we do the check-in, I'll show you that, okay, these are my Jenkins job. So the moment we do a check-in, I will be getting the code in the Git repository, and then this Jenkins build job will get started automatically. Okay, the build job will also validate the dev jobs, that, okay, are they running properly or not? So we will be looking those as an example also. So to see them here, what we are going to do here is we will be going into, okay. So we are going to submit this job into the dev repository. Okay, source control started. So if I come back to GitHub, you can see here there is a push happened. A V0 release got inserted, and you can see all the code are in the GitHub. Okay, the moment this comes into the GitHub, you will be able to see that, okay, the build process got started. You can see here the build process got started automatically. What we are seeing here is that build process will be first validating the code. Um, if we come back here, okay, this is a check-in successful, but all jobs. My bad. Okay, you will be able to see that, okay. Okay, these jobs got succeeded, but again, it got succeeded so quickly that we were not able to see them here. And you can see here that, okay, so they were able to, they were the jobs got succeeded. Now, once the job got succeeded and things, the build process identified that, okay, hey, this is working, it will send a message to the build approvers or build managers. This process is, running fine. Can we migrate it to the UAT? We will be getting an email. The build managers will get an email in their build that, okay, he can we migrate this code? This got succeeded. We can customize this email along with the build information, job information, code information. But I just put this just basic build number along with it. So they can approve it through email. I mean, they will be having an option to either abort it. If they do not want to migrate it to UAT, or they can, if they do not do anything, it will just got in a hold. If they will say yes, then it will go to the next step. Once they say, once they press yes, you can see here that it'll use the Git cherry pick and migrate the code to the next environment. In this one, you can see this is the H1 and this is our H2. Okay, just want to make sure that we see this one. And the moment this migration completed, this CI process got completed, another push will happen and it will trigger the UAT process. So in UAT, now the pull, the deployment process got started. It will be, extracting the code from the Git repository and bringing it into the IICS org. This process is again also automated. So basically, the moment the developer checks in, the whole thing will go in a one by one. There are manual approvals in this process so that the things should not override where it should not be. Okay, and then once this is completed, let's see what's the status. Okay, build got completed. Let's see our UAT environment. So this is our UAT environment. If we refresh it, Okay, so there we go. This is our new code. Okay, let's quickly see in the IICS repo how it will look like. So you can see here there is a push happened to the QA org also. And if we go to the QA org, actually that particular git commit hash is moved from, I mean, I'll not say move, copied from dev to UAT. Okay, now this is this is all good, right? Basically, it was the first time migration. We did a check-in. Now the developer want to do a small change in the code. I just want to cover a couple of scenarios which can happen in the developers development scenarios. So now, as I'm a developer, and it might happen that I need to do another change. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, and not in UAT, but in development environment. Okay, you can see that these all codes are basically checked in. Okay, what we are going to do here is we are going to check out the supplier code here. Okay, so two of the, I mean, basically is the supplier mapping. We are checking it out. We want to do some changes and we want to migrate it to the higher environment. So what we are going to do here is this is okay. This looks like V0 logic. I want to make it to V1 logic. I haven't done any changes to the mapping. If we want to, we can do it. But all I did is just to make sure we can see it clearly that this is the new mapping. I just changed the description. I can save it. We can run it. I mean, as I haven't done any changes, I'm assuming that okay, it will not fail. The logic will not fail. And then what we are going to do here is, in this time, we want to clearly see, okay, that, okay, which job is executing. So the last one is supplier 74, but this time what we are going to do is, we are going to check in these two mapping and mapping task. Okay. The moment we did the check-in of this, we will be able to see that the supplier code is also going to get executed through Jenkins. We will be waiting for this because last time we missed it. So this time we will be waiting for supplier 75. You can see here supplier 75, which is still in the process. This got executed because the CI process is evaluating this. And the moment it get completed, right, we will be going back and see that, okay, the Jenkins is waiting for us to approve the second migration. Here is the second one. Jenkins is waiting for us, and the moment we go there, it is waiting for, okay, can we go for a UAT deployment? If we say yes, it means then the code will be migrated to the UAT environment. Okay, in this one, the Git cherry pick migrated the H2 to the UAT. Here, if you see here, the pull process again got started. So once this get completed, you will be seeing that, okay, the next changed code will be there in the UAT environment. Okay, so as this got completed, let's go and see the UAT environment. This is our previous UAT environment where you can see that only V0 logic was there. And the update date was pretty much same for all the four, but now when we refresh it, we will be able to see that, okay, two of the code for the supplier got updated recently. Okay, so if you see, okay, this one and this one got updated at 411. Okay, with the V1 logic. Okay, now scenario number 3. So what we covered was covered in this demo was like, okay, there is an initial change, then there is an incremental change. Now we want to cover another scenario where suppose we want to roll back a change, because I figured it out that, okay, hey, this will not work for me. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go to pull by Git. In the UAT environment, because the previous version is also there in UAT, I'll have to look for my V0 previous release. Okay, I have to only select those code which are needed. So only these two. I need to provide the connection information. If we test it, test was successful, then we will do another pull. And this will uh, this reverted our code which we just deployed through the CI/CD process. So this is a small example of how a CI/CD process work. What are the operational challenges? Some of the operational challenges, for example, if we have to roll back a process, if we have to send an incremental change, these things can be handled. Now, not everything is supposed to be automated. If there is a rollback required, those things need to be taken care as a manual approach. Again, the DevOps and the operation teams are the best judge to people to judge all these scenarios in a customer environment. I hope this explains the theoretical part of what we saw in the demo in the first in the initial part of the slides. Okay. Um, okay. Next we can go to question answer section, and then we can conclude this webinar.
Hi everyone, if you have any questions, please post it. Prabir would be able to answer.
Okay. I think I tried my best to answer a lot of questions which are there in the chat, but I will see if I can take few of these questions and explain it here.
Sure.
Okay. One question was, will the CI process will be able to check for the dependent component not checked in the share a report? It might be possible because we have APIs which can figure it out, the list of code which is there in the upstream downstream of the particular asset you are looking for. So suppose you have 2 or 3 mappings, and if you are looking for suppose a particular mapping, if you are looking for the mapping task which is associated, if those are there or not, you can do that, but it will require like a lot of loopings to figure it out the dependency, and then figuring it out that okay, in this particular git hash commit that ID is there or not. I mean, it will take some time to some code to you have to prepare, and then only you can do this check. I mean, it will take a little longer, right? Generally, we suggest to add all the dependencies when you are preparing, so it will be helpful. Even export import process also do the same. There we also use all the dependencies. Let's see another one. One question was, is the Informatica code that is checked into the repository basically a single large JSON file, which is an export of an or one or more objects? So if you've seen, I mean, if you've seen if you take an export of a particular, you can do as a developer, you can take an export out. That export will try to bundle everything in a zip file, basically. So it will figure it out all the dependencies, what are things you want to export, and then prepare a zip file. So it is not just only one JSON file. It is basically creating your folder, your there are some binary files are also there within that particular zip file. So it is not just one single JSON. All I can say is that. Right, but that area itself, we generally we say that okay, the way it is prepared, we will not be able to do those kind of like merge and all between the two files. If you are expecting in that way, that is not possible. That is the whole reason why we are taking the whole Git, one single cherry pick, one Git commit from one branch to another branch. Okay. There is one question when deployment to test org starts. Will there be a check on the current dev and the desired test branch and log differences? We will not be able to get directly the differences, but we do have option that okay, if there is any conflict, we will be able to see that okay, suppose some object is already there in UAT, what we want to do. So I think recently I was working for a customer and they want that okay, few of the objects should not be overridden what is there in the higher environment. So you can code it in the in your pull by commit hash which all objects you want to keep versus which all object you want to utilize. I mean you will be getting the option to provide a object based conflict resolution process. So you can say that okay, you want to reuse it or you want to replace it. Okay. What scripting engine is invoking the API calls for the CI/CD flow? In this, I was using, it is a Jenkins, and the Jenkins is triggering the script. The behind the scenes script, it's a shell script, but I'm using JQ utility to read, parse, and resubmit all those JSON files. So if JQ installation is a problem, then we have to rewrite all these things in a Python-based solution. I'm just going through this. Just a minute. There are so many new questions came. Okay. Roderick, I didn't get this question, but these are all the new questions which I just got. Okay, this question I think I mentioned this in the demo. Can this method be used to migrate connectors, or do connectors need to be migrated manually? This will not migrate the connectors. So basically, you have to create the connection whenever you are creating it for the dev environment. At the same time, you can go ahead and create it for the higher environments also. At the time of pull or pull by commit, the pull or pull by commit will not expect the connector if the connector name is same. For example, suppose you have given a connection name, suppose A. If the same connection name is there in the test org as A, the pull or pull by commit hash will automatically understand this. But if your test connection name is something different, maybe having a underscore UAT or something specific, it is different than dev, then you have to provide that connection information and those connection mapping also at the time of digest API call. Okay. Can this method be used to migrate CAI solution? At this point of time, we have only tested this for CDI jobs, not for CAI.
how complex is to configure a Jenkins job, 5 line of code, 1 line of. I will see it is somewhere, if you are familiar with the DevOps area, like, doing those Git operations, I think it will be not that big issue. But, there are a few things like you have to figure it out that, okay, how to do REST API calls through curl or wget, get the output, parse it, and then do the subsequent call based on whatever output you receive. Once everything is, those are for the validation purpose, and then after everything is completed, then when you want to migrate, you have to do some Git operations. So I'll say it's medium complex. But if someone is very familiar with the Git command side, then they will be able to make it easily. This question, I think one question came is the change that would like to move from one branch to one dev branch to test branch would contain Power Center object, B2B data exchange, manage file transfer object. Just the CICD includes all those type of Informatica objects component. Yes. So whatever is there in the IICS side, everything will get migrated to the test branch, and then you have to do a pull by commit for importing that object. Okay, this one is a good question. Which step happens first, Git merge or Informatica import when code moves from dev to UAT? See, Git merge, and I'll say Git cherry pick commit will happen first. When you do a Git cherry pick commit, the test dot will not be able to know that, okay, there is a code is going to migrated in the test org. So on the underlying Git repository. So what we are doing is between one Git branch to another Git branch, we are migrating a set of code. Once that code is migrated to the test branch, then we start the import process. So when we start the import process, we need to have the Git commit ID. So that means that, okay, this code needs to be migrated to the test branch, then only we will get the new commit ID. Right. Once we get this commit ID, then we have to just file the pull by commit hash. Okay. Which Informatica module contains the API code? Roger, if you look into the docs.informatica.com, there is a section in the cloud called REST API. They do have details about all the REST APIs supported by IICS, and then there is a section about source control version that supports. You'll be getting a list of APIs which will be needed for all the CICD integration. Okay, the next is, what do I need to have installed on the server to do this? Which version of this must be installed? See, Jenkins, I'll not say about Jenkins because that you need to discuss with your DevOps team to see which version is available. But the plugins which I use, like generic Webhook and others, those are commonly available plugins in the Jenkins environment. So you can utilize that. You can utilize multi-branch pipelining, or you can use trigger-based pipeline trigger and filter based on the branches. So in that way, you will be able to trigger the code for that particular branch. Right? It depends how you want to play on this one. This is more like on the Jenkins side, where Jenkins will figure it out that, okay, which branch is getting the push and then which code need to be executed. Okay, how to test the state of the code? I'm not sure I understand this question. Someone asked, like, can we get the access to the scripts that are used in Jenkins pipeline? Michelle and team, is it okay if I can share the script with you guys and you can share it with the audience, or how do you want to do this?
Sure, Prabir, we would be able to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think those are the high-level questions. There are few more are coming on the way.
Okay. So if we have failed to answer any queries, we will reach out to them post the webinar. And thank you so much for this amazing session, Prabir. And we would like to inform that all Tech Tuesday webinar will be available on Success Portal under the Resource tab. Today's webinar will be available tomorrow, where you can view the recording and also download the slide deck. And please fill in the survey, as your feedback is important to us. And with that, we will end today's webinar, and thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, everyone.